Mr. David Ray, will you please be sworn in, sir? The Madam Clerk.
You're right. You promise to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, like God.
Mr. Ray, I have a few standard questions I must ask that I ask every witness.
Okay.
Number one, are you appearing here today and testifying under oath voluntarily?
Yes.
Have you been paid by anyone for your testimony other than expenses for coming to Clearwater?
No, I have not.
Do you have a lawsuit against the Church of Scientology?
No, I don't.
Does the Church of Scientology have a lawsuit against you?
Not yet.
Okay. Has anyone suggested to you that you should state anything but the truth, or has anyone suggested that you change your testimony for any reason?
No, they have not.
Thank you. Mr. Ray, would you like to make a statement or go through your background, or do you want to be led through it?
I'd like to make a statement.
Certainly. Go ahead.
Okay, this began back in about October, November of 1980. I was living in San Diego at the time with my mother and my two sisters. My mother got into Scientology, and...
Will you speak up and more into the mic so that people at the back of the room can hear you?
Sure.
Okay. How old are you, by the way?
18.
18.
All right. Back in about November of 1980, my mother started telling us, me and my two sisters, about Scientology, that she'd been in it for a while, and that she was going to start applying the technology in her company. And I didn't think anything of it. I just said, okay, well, let's see what you got. Well, right away it started creating serious conflicts between my mother and my stepfather at the time, her husband. And they started having a lot of fights about it because they had their own company called San Diego Computer Dynamics, which is in Scripps Ranch in San Diego. And so I was a little bit skeptical about it. Well, 3 or 4 months later, they divorced. And my mother said, well, I'd like you to do the purification rundown, which is to clean out your body. And the purification rundown, what you do is take a lot of vitamins, run 1 or 2 miles, and then sit in a sauna and sweat for about 5.5 hours every day. And it's very rigorous and very rough. Well, I went ahead and did it to try to clean up my body, and started going down to the organization, Scientology organization in San Diego, and checking into courses and so on and so forth. And I took 2 courses down there, the communication course and Essentials of Dianetics 0 down there. And one of the recruiters for that organization came up to me and said, would you like to join staff? You can get all your courses and all your training for free. And I was really turned on by what he had to say, because it appeared to me to be all logic. The books he had written, it appeared to me to be all logic on what goes on in your head. And I said, okay, terrific. So I had plans to join staff March 1st. Well, I did, and started working there, and it was pretty easy work. Nothing real big to do. I was studying a couple hours a day, and I was enjoying myself. Well, about March 8th, they came to me and said...
What year was this?
1981. About March...
Ago. A year ago, then?
Yes.
A little over a year ago.
Okay. March 8th, 1981, I believe that's the date. My supervisor, his name was David Horgan, he was in charge of Division 6, a public division in that...
Horgan?
Horgan.
H-O-R-G-A-N?
H-O-R-I-G-A-N.
H-O-R-I-G-A-N.
Okay. He said, we'd like to post you, put you on a job to fill up our basic course room with public people. And I said, okay, what do you want me to do? And he said, well, get on the phone, call people, call your friends, tell them how great Scientology is, and get them in here so we can get some money in here. And he says, if you can do that in 4 months, we'll give you any course, any position in this organization you want. Well, I started, and it took me about 3 days to do it. And that really blew their minds. And at that time, there were some Sea Org recruiters from here, from Clearwater, in the organization, looking for people to take to the Sea Org here in Clearwater. And they saw me, and they got a hold of that, and they said, we want this guy. So they came, and they talked to me, and they laid out a contract, and I'm going to describe to you this contract. it gets very, very personal with your life. They want to know everything about you from when you were born till present day when they talk to you. The contract goes like this. They want to know if you've ever taken any drugs, specifically LSD. Okay, they're very concerned about that. If you've taken LSD, they don't want you. Okay? They even go as far as to ask you, have you had any sexual relationships? How many? With whom? What schools have you gone to through your life? What were your teachers' names? What were your grades? Where have you lived? What were your addresses? How many times were your parents married, if they were divorced? What were their names? What were their addresses? Stepchildren you lived with? Friends you had? All those names, they want everything. And by the way, the contract says I joined the Sea Org. When you put your name on it, you join it for 1 billion years or so, it says. Okay, which was a little beyond my comprehension. So, after I had agreed to go into the Sea Organization, I did have some debts. You can't go if you have any debts. All right, you have to do something to pay off your debts. So I sold my car at the time. I had a Jeep, and that paid off my debts. And it took about, from the time I started talking to him till the time I was actually in Clearwater, was about 32 hours. Okay, it was really incredible. And I arrived here in Clearwater just thinking this is going to be great. I had the feeling that I was doing something for the benefit of every person on this planet. Okay? That's what they led me to believe. Well, I got news for them. And so when I got here, I was allowed to sleep a little bit because I'd been traveling all day. They woke me up and they said, okay, you have to do a routing form. You have to go meet these people and sign this and sign that. And then you have 24 hours off to go look around the city and do whatever you want. And I said, terrific. So they woke me up. I saw 2 people on my routing form. All of a sudden they pulled me and they said, David, we need you to work. I said, no problem. So I went into the big auditorium that they have there, and they were setting up an event for March 13th, which is Ron Hubbard's birthday. And I worked lifting these platforms. They weigh about 300 pounds each. Okay, and there was me and one girl lifting these. Okay, it was very strenuous. And this went on for about 6 or 7 hours, and I was getting pretty tired because I hadn't had much sleep. And I says, well, can I go finish my routing form, or can I go get some sleep or something? I'm tired. I'm not going to be able to last much longer. Right away, no. You can't. You have to work because we have to have this done.
Who said no, the girl? Forget the question. That just didn't come out right.
At least she was 18.
Yeah.
No, the supervisor at the time, Gary Walksmith is his name. Okay, he's the new staff control officer, NSCO abbreviation. And so I went ahead and worked, and right away that set my mind going round and round in circles, thinking, wait a minute, are these guys really for real? Okay? On that contract when I came over there, I had been promised things like $25 a week to start. Okay? Work about 8 hours a day like a normal job, all your training and all your processing, which is auditing basically, for free. Well, after that evening, I worked about a total of 9-10 hours that day, the first day, and I went to sleep. And the next morning, I got up and did the routing form. Well, by the time I got to the Treasury Department, I found out that until I did what they call Product 0 and Product 1, which entails about 12 courses, long courses, that I was only going to make $9.60 a week. I said, wait a minute. This isn't right. This is not what I told. This is not what I agreed to. Okay, and they says, well, we don't know what your recruiter told you, but this is the way it is. So I had to accept it. And about day 2, when I first came there, they put me in a room by myself, which was really nice. I appreciated that. Day 2, they said, okay, we're going to take you to where you're going to bunk. Now, this is a room for executive people in the Church of Scientology. Okay, you're new here. Don't talk to them. And I said, what? And they said, don't talk to them. I said, okay. So I walked in the room, and when that door opened, that was it. The air was so thick, and the stench was so bad, it just about knocked me over. So I walked in the room, and I was just thinking, you've got to be kidding.
Sick with what? What kind of stench?
Body odor. Okay. And I walked in, and the room was about 12 feet by 16 feet, not including the bathroom. There was a small bathroom in there, which was a mess. But there were 4 bunks on each side. 8 people in that room, and all of their clothes, all of their belongings in that room. There were boxes with papers and dirty clothes piled up from ceiling to floor to ceiling, excuse me, and all over the place, and there wasn't much room to move around. And there were cockroaches. Like, I'm from the West Coast, and I've never seen palmetto bugs, and to me, that's just a giant cockroach.
Well, yeah.
And my eyes
To us too, but we call them palmetto bugs. Sounds better.
So, to get the basics of it, when I was first there, I got extremely skeptical about the whole thing. All right? I didn't know what to believe and what not to believe because I'd been lied to on 5 different occasions so far. I didn't know what else was a lie. So when they said, we'd like to put you into an auditing chair and start auditing you, I said, no way. They said, why not? I said, because I keep getting different stories from different people I've been lied to, and I'm not going to sit there and let you guys do something to me that I don't know what it's all about. I said, I'll read anything you want me to read, but I won't sit in that chair. So they sent me to ethics. So I went into ethics, and they said, they have a thing called overts and withholds, all right? And what that is if you do something...
Overts and what?
Overts and withholds.
Oh, overts and withholds.
Right.
Okay.
Okay? And an overt is when you do something that you know to be against your own ethical code or moral code, okay, and you hold it within your head, okay, and you just keep it there. That's an overt, and a withhold is holding it there. So they took me in there and said, okay, start writing up all your overts and withholds. We want to know all about it. Okay, so I started...
That may be a belief, I'm advised, and getting dangerous, so let's just...
Well, he's just explaining the theory to you.
Is it all right, Mr. Flynn? I don't know where he's going to end up, but...
I think the reason I was writing up these overts and withholds, they told me, is because I refused their processing. They're not used to that.
Yeah, that may be for the benefit. It may be considered religious. It may be like, what is a sin? And we don't really want to know what a sin is. And
please.
Yes, sir.
They never indicated to me that it was religious. They never indicated to me that that was a religious belief. Okay? From day one when I got into Scientology, I was instructed that this was, their auditing and their tech was scientifically proven to work. All right? From day one, I was told that, and I was told that all along. Okay? So I wrote up these overts and withholds, and I handed it to the guy that was handling this ethics cycle. Okay? And he looked at it, and he's going, okay, well, you've got to do this and this. And what he was telling me is I've got to do work, physical labor. They call it MEST work. M-E-S-T stands for matter, energy, space, and time. Okay? So I had to do physical labor. I said, no problem. So they said, we're going to put you in the housekeeping section. So they put me in the housekeeping section, gave me a cart, loaded it all up. I had to go clean public rooms. Well, when I first started, they gave me a whole floor to do by myself, which is about, I'd say 31, 32 rooms. All right, I said, how do you expect me to finish these? Okay, they said, you're one of the top beings on this planet. That's why you're here. You've got to do it. I said, you've got to be kidding.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please, it may be humorous, but we don't want to laugh and make a circus of the hearings. This is important, and we want to keep some decorum here. Yes, Mr. Wright.
Okay, well, I gave it my best shot, and I finished it. It took me about 12, 13 hours. And it was very hard on me physically because the weather here in Florida gets incredibly hot. All right, there's no air conditioning in the building. In the public rooms, they have small air conditioners. Okay, but down in the hallways and so forth, there is no air conditioning. regular hotel room. Public rooms is...
So public rooms are a hotel room?
Yeah, they're regular hotel rooms.
For people who come from the general public.
As opposed to a public...
As opposed to a staff room.
Yeah, as opposed
like
to
a
a staff
lobby
member.
and restaurants, etc.
Right. The staff members work and run the hotel, okay, and deliver the processing and training. The public are the ones that they come in and get the money from.
Can the public go in those rooms? We, the public?
Can we, the general public, walk?
We, the public, walk into those public rooms?
They claim you can, okay? They claim that any public person, anybody off the street, can walk in, look around like a regular hotel. But I found that not to be true. I was friends with the security guard down at the front door. His name was Alex. I don't remember his last name. And somebody came by off the streets, was just looking around and read a religious retreat for Church of Scientology. He wanted to go and look around. Well, they quickly, him and he called one of the security guards to grab him on each arm and escorted him out very quickly. And that's another story that's later on. But
okay, continue then with your trend of thought.
okay. Instead of going into real big detail on this anymore, after working and doing all these rooms that I was required to do, and I did get them done, and I did work hard, they promoted me, okay? And I was in charge of the housekeeping services for all of the hotel. And what they didn't tell me was, they said, well, yeah, you're going to be able to tell these people what to do. I thought I was going to sit down and do paperwork, okay? Well, no, my room quota each day went from 32 to 78. Okay?
That's a promotion.
That's a promotion. Okay, excuse me. So, they have, on the contract, they say, if your statistics are up, let me explain that. Every time you clean a room, you leave a little piece of paper in there. It says, my name, I'm your housekeeper, and there's numbers by these words. One says incredible, okay, good, bad, terrible, and they've got to circle a number by the word that they feel how the room was cleaned. Okay, well, you pick these up each day, and you drop off a new one. And that's how you calculate your statistics. You add up the numbers divided by the number sheets you have, and there's your number. Okay, it's on average. Well, if your statistics are up, every 2 weeks, you're supposed to have 24 hours off, called liberty. It's like in the Navy or anything else. Well, since they were shorthanded, I would keep asking them for my time off because I was working, anywhere from 18 to 20 hours a day. Wasn't getting much sleep. Was very tired all the time. And they wouldn't give it to me. They said, no, we can't afford to let you go. These rooms won't get cleaned. Well, I wanted the rooms to get cleaned. I wanted to be able, the public, to have what they're paying for. So I went ahead and did it. Well, I put up with that for about 9 weeks. Okay? And one day I said, I'm leaving. And I took off. I took my day off. I just went down to the beach and slept on the beach, walked around, got a suntan. When I came back, they were angry with me, and they said, Dave, you're going to have to go to ethics and write up your overts and withholds again. So I did that, and the thing that really kills me about this whole operation is that they by the questions they ask and the things they do, they open you up to your innermost personal self. Okay? And as I'm sure all of you have done at one time or another, have opened yourself up, you're extremely vulnerable. All right? They'll pick you up and they'll raise you so high you feel like you're on top of the world, and then they'll drop you into what you feel like a bottomless pit. All right? And those are the kind of tearing and searing emotions that go through a person's mind when they're there. Okay? They want to leave. They want to help themselves. You get physically tired. Sometimes you don't even have time to take a shower. 90% of the people who are walking around here they stink. They're not clean. Okay? The people there are not clean. The building is not clean. The building is an extreme fire hazard. Okay? They have boxes stacked up all over the place. Out in the garage, they have old furniture just dumped out there, mattresses piled up, or they had this when I was there. All right. And if that would have been ignited, there would have been a lot of people killed. A lot of people. They have a very old fire alarm system. They told us there as staff members, if you saw a fire somewhere, run down to reception, let them know. They've got to run around behind, there's a reception room, they got to go around behind it, flip the switch for the alarm system, get on the phone and call the fire department. All right, well, two things. Number one, they only had about one elevator in operation at a time. They had 3 elevators there, extremely slow and extremely crowded. Okay, because you're talking about, at the Fort Harrison itself, about 400 staff members and 300 public. Okay, that's 700 people. And with one elevator in operation. So if you saw a fire, it was quicker to run down the stairs. Well, that still takes time. Hypothetical situation. If a fire would have broken out on the 7th floor, there's 10 floors. My guess is that that 7th floor and the floor above it, the 8th floor, would have been an inferno by the time that alarm would have been set off. Okay, with the amount of stuff. Also, they packed people that were coming in. They'd have people come in here to Clearwater from organizations and missions all over the world to do what's called the Flag Executive Briefing Course, FEBCs for short. And it was supposed to help them to go back to their own organizations and missions and get more people into the organization, therefore bring in more money. This was all based on money. Okay? How much income we could get. Every week when we had a staff meeting, it's how much money did we get? That was the first thing. Everything was secondary to that. Everything. All right? Well, as these students came in, a guy that I bunked with was in charge of putting these people in their rooms. His name is Mike Ravel. He's a commanding officer of Area Estates Oregon. And he was putting in a room, 12 by 16, 25 people to one room. And all their belongings.
12 by 16?
Yep, 25
people. In this city?
In this city.
In the Fort Harrison?
In the Fort Harrison.
What floor?
3rd, 4th, and 5th.
3rd, 4th, and 5th. You got that, Mr. Shoemaker?
This began in the beginning of May and was really starting to get going when I left, okay? And my guess is that it's going on now just as strong as ever.
3rd, 4th, and 5th.
3rd, 4th, and 5th floors.
How many restrooms to 25 people?
One.
There's no way you could all possibly take a shower then. So no wonder your original statement is probably correct.
You had to take, I walked into the rooms occasionally to take pillows out of the rooms because we didn't have enough for the public people. So I'd have to take them away from the staff. Well, I looked on the bathroom door. They had what's called a shower schedule. It started at 6:30. First person went from 6:30 to 6:35. Second person from 6:35 to 6:40. Okay, and on down like 5-minute showers. That was the maximum.
If someone took 10, that ruined the whole chain, right?
If someone took 10, about...
Be killed.
Yeah, at about 5.5, somebody else would go in there and just yank them out.
Okay, continue.
Yeah. Well, what was going on through my mind the whole time I was there, okay, is if we're really supposed to be helping clear this planet, okay, and we're supposed to be benefiting everyone on this planet, why are we only dealing with the people that have money and lots of it? Okay? And I would ask these questions, and I would get no answers, or no straight answers anyway. But I would notice from dealing with the public, and I dealt with every public person that came in and out of that building, all right, that the people that were there trying to get their training and processing to help themselves and didn't have a whole lot of money would get treated very badly, and they would. The people that came in there and had a whole lot of money and they were there just spending money and showing off, you know, whatever they're doing, they like to show off. They like to flash their money. Those are the people that would get extreme special attention, okay? And I was always getting instructions down from the accommodations counselor to take care of these people that had these big fancy rooms that had lots of money, you know, do anything they wanted to do, okay? And we'd be moving refrigerators in and out of there with no dollies. Me and one other guy would be carrying them up and down stairs. I mean, what does a refrigerator weigh? About 300 pounds? Okay.
At least.
Yeah. And beds the same way. Okay, up and down stairs, no dollies. Just on and on like this. And I put in, like I said, 18, 20 hours a day. And I complain about it, and they give me a bad time. Another thing that really bothered me, when I was in that room, I was what they considered a peon since I was brand new to the Sea Org. Okay? All those executives I lived with felt like they were high and mighty, and they just loved to pick on me. Okay? Because I'd ask them questions, and they would pick on me. Well,
what questions would you ask them?
Oh, I'd ask them questions about the money, how much money was coming in and out each week, what kind of jobs they did, what their jobs entailed. I wanted to know all I could. How come you guys aren't out there picking up the people on the streets that don't have any money, okay, and showing them how to make some money so they can do something with themselves, okay? Stuff like that.
How do they pick on you?
Well, I'd be sitting in a chair, watching television, which was my favorite thing to do on any time off I had. I didn't sleep very much. And they'd walk in there and pick me up out of the chair, physically, and put me in another one saying, I want this chair because it's in front of the TV set and you can't say nothing about it. And I'd say, oh yeah, well me, you know, I've got a fuse about that long, okay? And I'd say something back and they'd strike at me, okay? And I got into 4 physical fights on 4 different occasions, one of which I was trying to leave and take some time off. And he just hauled off and punched me because he didn't know any better way to stop me.
You want to leave to go on liberty? And
yes, I wanted to leave.
To keep you in the Fort Harrison Hotel.
Yeah, I wanted to leave to go down to the beach and get some sleep. I could not sleep in that room. There were bugs crawling all over the place. It smelled real bad. One night, I was told by the guys in the room it was a wolf spider, but one night, I was laying there and kept feeling these little bites on my body. I didn't know what it was, these little sharp pain things. So I got up pretty early, decided to take a shower, walked in and looked down. The whole side of my body was covered with blood. And so I washed it off and looked, and there were a whole bunch of little bumps on my body. So I walked back over to my bed really quick, flipped back the covers, and there was this huge brown spider. And I smashed him, to say the least. So I went to the medical officer. And I started running a fever. And there was no way I could work. I needed to lay down and get some sleep. So I went in there, and he said, what kind of overts and withholds do you have? That's why you're sick. And I said, look, I just need to relax. Can I see a doctor? He said, no, you can't see a doctor. And he says, anyway, can you afford it? How much money do you have? I said, well, I have about $5. He says, well, we don't pay for your doctor's expenses. That's something you're going to have to save for if you want to see a doctor. Okay. What we can do...
And you're making $860 a week this time?
$960.
$960.
And later on it increased to $12, but not during the time that I got sick. Just about 2 months before I left, it went up to $12, and that's as high as it got. So the medical officer, he would not... His name is Gary Pippenberg.
Eric Pippenberg?
Yes. At that time, Pippenburg, Pippenberg. And he wouldn't do anything for me, and he says, well, why don't you go talk to your supervisor, see if you can get some time off to lay down. I went and talked to my supervisor, and the second I mentioned that I was sick, he got extremely violent in his tone of voice to me and started yelling at me and screaming at me, saying, you know, don't get sick. We need you to work. You can't have any time off, period. There's no way we're going to let you have any time off. And I just said, wait a minute. I was just too tired to argue, so I would go up with my cart, like I was cleaning rooms, and I would open up one of the rooms that was empty, and I'd lay down and go to sleep. I was just so tired. I could barely carry myself up the stairs. Just barely make it. And I'd go in there and go to sleep. And I did that several times. And eventually, this was right before I left, I wound up in the RPF, Rehabilitation Project Force. And was I in for a surprise? What it is is a group of people that have done something what they consider against the Church of Scientology, okay? The Rehabilitation Project Force is the last thing they do to try to save your being before they kick you out, okay? And I was scared to death to be kicked out because me, along with everybody else that's there, has a basic need inside of us to do something good for somebody else, okay? And we were led to believe that we were doing something good for a whole lot of people, and we didn't want to lose that. I didn't want to lose that. So I said, okay, I'll go into the RPF. So I went in there, and basically what it is emptying all the garbage out of the restaurants, okay? Restaurant garbage is wet. It's old food. It's got flies and all kinds of bugs crawling around in it. And we would pick up the cans, take them down to the garbage dump them into the garbage dump, and at the end of the day, we'd have to go in there in our shoes and stomp it down. And I don't know what kind of diseases we were exposed to, but we were getting some really weird ones. Okay.
Get inside the dumpster and stomp it?
Yeah, this liquid. I mean,
it was too small, or was that punishment?
No, the dumpster was too small, and you get inside there in this restaurant garbage, you'd be just like quicksand. You go all the way to the bottom, you'd be, more than waist deep in this stuff. All right, it smelled horrible. And then you'd have to go back and clean up, okay? And the food that they served, the RPFers, was just rotten. They served all the leftovers after all of the staff on the whole base, all the buildings, had eaten. Okay, then we ate alone, whatever was left over. And it wasn't very good. And it didn't give us the nourishment that we needed to keep our bodies going.
What would your typical diet consist of after the leftovers?
Good grief. It'd be sometimes pieces of meat, pieces of beef, or chicken or pork, usually a salad and a drink. But the salad was wilted, and it smelled rotten, like it'd been, somebody had dumped sour milk on it. The cheese was no good. It was all molded, but molded to the point that it was fuzzy, like a peach. And one time they had French fries there, and I picked up a handful of French fries and started eating them, and I found a French fried palmetto bug in my French fries. And I'd wondered how many I'd eaten, when I saw that. So I threw that out. So my diet, my personal diet, I run across the street and get myself a handful of cookies with what little money I had, and that's basically what I lived on, is cookies. Because that's the only decent thing they had to eat, in my opinion.
Where did you get the cookies?
There's a little health food store across the street from the Fort Harrison, right across the street.
Well, for $9.60 a week, I guess that's all you could eat.
$9.60 a week, I had to skimp. Well, I smoke, okay, and I was smoking when I was there. $9.60 a week will buy a carton of cigarettes and maybe a tube of toothpaste, and that's it. Not counting soap, shampoo, any toiletries that you need. If your shoes wear out, you're going to have to get yourself a new pair of shoes. If your pants wear out, you're going to have to get yourself a new pair of pants. It just doesn't cover it.
Did you have family money that could support you in this cause that you were involved with?
Yes, my mother and my two sisters, who are still members of the Church of Scientology. And I would like to I have a couple of things to say about that. The biggest conflict I had coming over here from the West Coast to give my testimony is that my mother and my two sisters are still involved in the Church of Scientology. My mother is doing advanced enlightenment courses. My sister is in the Sea organization in Hollywood and Los Angeles. Okay, and my youngest sister, Jennifer, who is 14, is living at one of their hotels there called the Manor, and she has not even gone to school this year. Okay, because they keep putting into her mind that schools are no good. You want Ron Hubbard's technology, and that's all you want. That's all you need. We'll graduate you. Okay, but what really bothers me is that aside from my father, that's my whole family. Okay, and this is going to be publicized within the Church of Scientology. And I'm going to lose that after today. All right, and that just tears me apart. That's my family. Okay? This is the Church of Scientology's defense, attack, whatever, is that they attack you on a personal level. Okay? And that's the greatest attack anybody could ever do, is when they attack you on a personal level. They could come up and punch you in the mouth. Sure, it's going to sting for a while. Okay, but if any of you have ever broken up with your girlfriend, you know that hurts for a while. That hurts a lot longer than a punch in the mouth. Okay? That's the way they attack you. All right.
You said so much.
I've got something to say about the Guardian's office.
I'd like to know about the Guardian's officer.
Okay. Every 2 weeks on Sunday, a representative from the Guardian's office worldwide, which is here in Clearwater. I'm not sure where. I believe it's in the Clearwater building, up around LRH personal office.
The Clearwater, the old Bank of Clearwater building?
Yeah, on the corner of Fort Harrison and Cleveland. All right. We had one briefing that I specifically remember, and the specific case that we were told about. Do you remember this big thing about Jonestown, the Guyana cult?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, they stated to us that they had done research into what happened there, and then it was the U.S. government that poisoned them with nerve gas, put cyanide in the punch, and made it look like that, just to scare away Scientology.
Okay, we were informed that, led to believe that, and that was just pounded into our heads. So our feelings on the U.S. government were not too good.
That was one of my questions. Can we give a name?
Well, I was 17 years old at the time I was there.
You're 17 at the time.
Yeah.
Did you ever graduate from high school?
Yes. On the CHSPE, California High School Proficiency Examination.
Well, you seem like a very bright young man and a very ambitious young man, a very gutsy guy to do what you've done and to get out and to take the chance to lose your family, and I believe that to be true. Do you have any fear that your mother and sisters may be given special duties to do?
Well,
because of this?
it's possible. I can't really say because I don't know, okay? The Church of Scientology doesn't scare me to the point where I'm afraid of physical harm, okay? But they do scare me in the fact that L. Ron Hubbard got so many people, in the millions, okay, into this Scientology organization. Each and every Sea Org member is being trained with LRH technology to understand and to think like him, okay? L. Ron Hubbard got all these millions of people into this cult. As these people grow and develop in the technology, can you imagine what 2,000 L. Ron Hubbards are going to do?
Do you think, then, that they are promoting and conceiving junior L. Ron Hubbard, future L. Ron Hubbards? Is that what you're saying?
Each and every Sea Org member is a future L. Ron Hubbard. Each and every one.
I'd like to know about the children. I have here that says we observed the nursery with 5 to 10 children playing on the floor, and how many, and were there minors that were staying in Clearwater against their parents' wishes?
Yes. One specific that I know of.
Tell me specific, the one you know.
Her name was Nadine Meeder, M-E-A-D-E-R. She was 13 years old at the time I was there, and one night she came to me to talk to me because we were friends. We worked in the same organization. She was crying because her parents had sent her a real nasty letter about how they don't like the Church of Scientology, and the second half of it was very loving on how they want her back. Well, she had shown that to a lady by the name of Lori Englehart, who was a commanding officer of Public Estates Organization. Okay? And she had given her a bunch of stuff about how great Scientology is and how much better Scientology was than her parents. She was just in tears. She didn't know what to do. It was tearing her in half.
How did she get there in the first place at 13?
I never found that out. My guess is this. They do send out missions, okay, with Sea Org members that are missionaries on recruiting missions. And they go out and they go all over the world, okay, and they find people and they talk to people. They'll talk to anybody. They'll talk to somebody off the streets, okay, and try to recruit them into the Church of Scientology.
It's just amazing to me how a child can get involved. And how is she there against her wishes? I mean, if she's 13, without her parents' consent, they want her back. They want her home, and yet she's forced to stay there. Is she still there today, to your knowledge, or has she left?
To my knowledge, she's still there. The reason that she's there, the reason you feel the pressure, is because they tap on that piece that's inside of every one of us.
Everybody has that button.
To do good, okay? There's a part of us, every one of us, that wants to do some good for other people, all right? And they pull on that, and they tug it, and they twist it around and turn it upside down so you don't know which way is up, all right? And that's why you feel like if you leave, you're going to be condemned forever, okay? That's the way they make you feel. You feel like if you leave, you're going to be condemned forever. So you don't want to leave, no matter how bad it gets.
Tell me about the cadet org.
All I know about the cadet org is that they are minors that are in that org. They're what they consider minors is anybody under 16. If you're over 16, you're going to work like a regular staff member. But they would do physical labor, hard physical labor. They rotate from building to building and do on jobs. And they play video games all night. They come back, they get off work about 4:30, and they'd be till 2 o'clock in the morning playing video games. No schooling.
Video games, are they being, do you put a quarter in them, or are they played for free?
You put a quarter in them.
So the children have to get, I'm wondering about their license, because we have to license those machines in the city of Clearwater. And apparently we didn't even know they had video. Are they video games in the Fort Harrison Hotel?
Yeah, they're in the Lemon Tree Restaurant.
At $8.60 a week.
$9.60.
$9.60. You really can't play many games at a quarter.
No.
All night long. Unless you're good, Mr. Calderbank says. 20% of the staff are under 20 years old. Is that, we're about 20 years old?
Yes. They're about 20. There are some staff members there. Fred Hodgkinson is one, and Ernie, I don't remember his last name. They work in the engineering department, and they do physical labor, and they're about 70 years old. All right. And they give these guys auditing and processing, to help. They've got arthritis, okay? One of them's got some serious back problems. Well, they tell them that through this auditing that they'll cure that so they can go ahead and work. And they push them just as hard as they push anybody else. And I've seen them collapse. Twice.
The older people?
Yes.
If someone wanted to go there from California, or from Clearwater for that matter, and they had money, or a known money person, what would it cost them to stay at the Fort Harrison Hotel with meals? Or without meals, however they charge.
Okay, with meals, with their room, and with their training or their processing, because that's why they're there, it would amount to an average of $100 a day or more. That's conservative, per person. Okay, and there is an average of 300 people there at any one given time, public, paying.
How many?
300.
300? What about poor people that are motivated but just don't have the money?
They leave them alone.
What about blacks, minorities? Do they cater to minority people?
Yes, they do. There's not much racial prejudice.
They do not discriminate.
No.
What they do, except if you have money.
No. Well, I have only seen 2 black people there, and no other races there except for white people. So I think maybe they're a little bit smarter than we are.
Huh. In other words, you're saying they're streetwise, just scams.
What's that?
They're streetwise.
Streetwise because streetwise, W-I-S-E.
Explain, please.
Streetwise means you just don't go for the con game so fast. You can see through it.
Right.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's get back to this now. Were efforts made to keep city inspectors from observing these conditions or that exist, like overcrowding, filth, staff quarters? Were efforts made to keep inspectors from seeing staff accommodations and the antiquated fire alarm systems?
Yes, they were.
How did you accomplish that?
Just a moment. Let me say one more thing about the GO while it's fresh in my mind.
Yes, sir.
They would go around to the newsstands and buy up the newspapers and burn them if there were any articles against Scientology in them, so that we would not see them. Okay? Now, I got my hands on one while I was there. It was an article called Suitology. I don't know who it was written by, but the head of this Suitology, his name was Eldon Blubber. Okay? And it was really cute. And I showed that around, and I got in a lot of trouble for it. A lot of trouble. Okay, that almost put me in the RPF right there for doing that. As far as the inspector comes, somehow the Public Estates Org, through someone, got some information that there was going to be a surprise inspection onto the Fort Harrison Hotel, and there was an all-out effort made to get it cleaned up. Every staff member, in their spare time, even while they were working, had to get out there and move the stuff around, clean it up, and hide it. They couldn't get rid of it, so they had to hide it. So they put it in rooms and storerooms, lock it up, and make the keys disappear, so like they didn't have the keys to them or something. I'm not really sure on the details.
Do you think someone in one of our offices is tipping them off?
It's a definite possibility. I wouldn't put it past them.
I know that we do try and go up the street so we don't appear like we're harassing them. So it could have been that we started one on the block and they observed us. Of course, the day-to-day inspections is something that the manager may want to know more about than me. Commissioners, we've been... All right, how many regular staff do you have there?
In all the buildings combined, which includes the Fort Harrison, the Clearwater Bank building, the Quality Inn, the Heart of Clearwater Motel, and Mimeo, which is just down the street from the Clearwater Bank building, there's about 800 to 1,000.
Staff?
Staffers.
But staff primarily lives in the Fort Harrison.
No. It's divided up into thirds. The Fort Harrison, the Heart of Clearwater Motel, and the Quality Inn.
Are where the... Oh, a third, a third, a third.
Right.
So, if you want, does it cost more to go to the Sandcastle than the Fort Harrison? I mean, it's a newer building.
I'm not really sure on the price. I know that the public...
Are they also as overcrowded, the Sandcastle and the various hotels?
No, the Sandcastle is relatively empty, okay, because they don't like having to stay at the Sandcastle. They would rather, the public, the guests, would rather be at the Fort Harrison, and there are some real serious conflicts that go on about that.
Why?
Well, people will call in advance and book reservations for a room, okay? Well, if somebody's got more money than they do and decide they want that room, the accommodations counselor will give them that room. And so when the people finally do get here, their reservations are no longer for the room that they asked for, and there are some serious conflicts that occur because of that. And I would sit down and I would talk with these people, these public people, okay? And I would just sit down and listen to their problems. All I was a couple of ears, all right? Because nobody else would do that. Nobody. Or not that I knew of, all right? And this way I got a lot of information about what was happening with the public and about how they were being treated. And there were a lot of complaints. And anytime they complained about something in their room, something having to do with their room, it was instantly put on my shoulders and I had to handle it. I had to deal with it.
What kind of complaints did you have and how did you handle them?
Well, we had complaints like I didn't get the room that I asked for. I asked for a refrigerator. I don't have one. It's just basic stuff like that. They asked for something that they didn't get. Those type of complaints. So what I would have to do is try to find something, either what they specifically asked for or something to substitute it in the best way that I could.
Commissioners, we could go on with this young man for a long time, but we do take a break. I'd like to, if it's your pleasure, to take a break and invite him back for questioning from the rest of the commission. So, Mr. Ray, we'd like you to stay around. We'd like to ask you questions in about an hour and a half at 2 p.m.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank this meeting is adjourned. We'll see you in an hour and a half. tomorrow morning, afternoon, and hopefully we'll end somewhere around 5 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, and then we'll give the Scientologists and their point of view be expressed here, as we have also presented the city's point of view. Mr. Flynn, is your witness still sworn in?
Yes, sir.
All right. We are now listening to a young man named Ray. David Ray. And Mr. Ray, you can continue to tell what you want to tell and try and be brief, but I don't want to stifle you either. And then I would like to then throw it open to my colleagues for questioning, and I believe we'll start with Mr. Hatchett. Is that correct? All right. So, Mr. Ray, would you continue your story, please?
Yes, I have two things I'd like to go over real quick. One is what they know in Scientology as the RPF's RPF. Now that's the Rehabilitation Project Force, okay? That is, if you do something wrong in the Church of Scientology, you go into the RPF. If you do something wrong in the RPF, you go to the RPF's RPF. And what they do is they completely isolate you, okay? They completely isolate you from anything. You cannot eat with anyone. You cannot speak to anyone. You sleep in the garage with all the rats, okay? And all you do is handle garbage all day long.
When you say garage, you mean the parking garage?
The parking garage, second floor.
Second floor.
The second floor. Right now, what about the wind and the rain, the elements coming? Do they have plywood up there, or are you sleeping in the ramp like?
No, they have some plywood walls. There's a bunch of furniture and stuff stored in there.
Has that?
Were you in?
I wonder if our building inspectors have inspected that, as there must be a code violation, I would imagine. But that's another issue. Continue.
Right. Well, what they do in the RPF is just isolate you from everything so that you're completely helpless. It's like having a guy on the ground and punching him in the face over and over and over again. He's helpless. Okay? They give you no positive whatsoever. Okay? It's negative. You're bad. You're terrible. And we're going to try to help you. We're the only ones that can help you. If you try to get help from the outside world, you'll die. And that's what they tell you. And another thing that completely shocked me, this was at the end, when I left, I started on the routing form to route out, and went over to the Treasury in the International Training Organization. This is where you get your training, where you read all the materials and stuff. And they handed me a piece of paper that says, I owe them $6,000 for leaving. They call it a freeloader's debt. Okay, like I was freeloading on them. Here I am, working, just busting my tail for them, working 18, 20 hours a day, all right, taking only $9.60 then to $12 a week, all right. When I want to leave after all that, they tell me I still owe them $6,000. Okay, how they can arrive at that, I haven't the foggiest notion.
What did you tell them?
I said, forget it. I have no intention of paying it. That's where they leave themselves vulnerable. Since they are claiming to be a religion and are claiming to be non-profit, okay, I don't have to pay it.
All right, one quick question before I get to my colleagues. Did you knowingly and willingly sign a million or billion-year contract?
Yes, I did.
Is it billion or million?
Billion.
Billion.
Or so. That's what it
Billion-year
says.
contract. You knowingly signed that, and
Yes, I did.
knowingly signed it. All right. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, it's
All right.
open to questions.
I'd like to start with Mr. Hatchett, the Vice Mayor.
David, thank you. Fraudulent promises, but I want to get into something else in the area of fraud. I think you mentioned something about 300 people maybe a week checking in and out. Give us a little more indication how fraudulent activities took place with the public people coming in.
As far as money is concerned?
Correct.
Okay, well, like I had mentioned earlier, there's about 300 people on the average there at any given time, okay? They don't come in and out on a week-to-week basis. Some of them stay there 2 or 3 months. Some of them live there, all right? That's their home. But the average is, and this is being extremely conservative, all right, $100 a week. That includes your room, your meals, and your training or processing, whichever you're going to do. All right. So they collect money. One of the people that was in my room with me that shared my room.
Excuse me, did you say a week or a day?
A day. I'm sorry.
You meant to say a day, but you did say a week.
Yes.
All right.
Sorry. One of the guys that was in my room, his name was Mark Fisher. He worked for the International Management Organization. Okay? And they manage all of the organizations and missions throughout the world. And it's here in Clearwater.
Yeah, we wrote IMO before. We didn't know
IMO?
Yes.
National Management.
That may relate to the paper that we had shown as an exhibit earlier.
Yes. Well, he was what they call an evaler. Okay? What he does is he takes a look at org statistics and he evaluates them and tells them what they got to do to improve, what they're doing wrong, okay, and so on to make more money. Well, they would publish at the weekly meetings that they would have, they would tell everybody how much GI, gross income, was coming in from all over the world. On the average, I'd hear $600,000 or $700,000 a week. Okay, one week I heard $2 million.
Million?
Million in 1 week coming in, and that goes into what they call Sea Org reserves, which, as far as I know, can be a bank in Switzerland. Okay, it's there. They claim Sea Org reserves is there, so if the country ever goes into a depression, that Scientology can survive.
Okay. That's it. Any other questions?
Yes, about this Jonestown people incident. You say somebody from the Guardian office gave you a report against the federal government of being, poisoning people and gassing them.
Yes.
Do you know that person by name?
No, I do not.
Is that person in Clearwater at that time?
Yes.
That was said to you in a Clearwater building.
Yes, it was at Fort Harrison.
On or about what date?
Early June
1981.
1981.
Thank you.
Mr. Shoemaker, do you have any questions?
Mr. Ray, how long were you a Scientologist? Were you actually a member of the organization?
I was a member of the church for 7 months. I was here in Clearwater for almost 5.
What was the events leading up to your leaving the church? And was there any attempt made to try to keep you from leaving?
Yeah, there were attempts made to try to keep me from leaving. What made me leave more than anything was the
Sorry. Excuse me.
the absolute insanity that's there. And they claim to be so sane, okay? And they teach you how to be sane, or so they claim. But what they're really doing is they open you up, your personal self, and they program you to be L. Ron Hubbard's clone.
Well, from the time, when did you decide to leave? How long did it take from the time you decided you were going to leave till the time you actually left? A day or?
Oh, no, about 6 hours from the time I made the ultimate decision. But I had been contemplating it quite a bit for a couple of days before that, and altogether been contemplating it after 2 days I arrived there.
Well, when you decided that you were going to leave, did you tell anybody that you were going to leave at that point?
Yeah, I went up to what they call the Hubbard Communication Office, which they have one in each organization. It's called Division 1. Mm-hmm. And I went up there and said, I'd like to leave. I'd like to route out. Okay? And what they do is they sit you down and put you in ethics. And they said, you got to stay here and write up every overt withhold you have on the Church of Scientology. We want to know about it because this way you won't leave here with bad feelings. Okay? That's the con game they give you. They want you to tell everything that you've done against them, okay, or everything that you've done wrong ever in your life so that they have it in writing, and they tell you that it's to make you feel better. Sure, it makes you feel better until they pull it out.
Did you do it?
Yeah, they make you put everything in writing, okay? You have to write it all down and sign it.
Did you do that?
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
And then what was the next step after that? I mean, what time period was involved in this when they were routing you out, let's say?
This was like, it took at least 1 day. It kind of dragged on to the second day because once I said, okay, I'm going to leave. Mm-hmm. Well, as soon as they did that, I just went back to contemplation, okay, because I didn't know if I wanted to go through with that because it's a lot of hassle. Mm-hmm. They treated me like a criminal. Okay, I could not say anything, could not do anything. I got dirty looks. I got chewed out. I got insults. okay, and they just sat me down at a desk and just fired on me verbally.
You know, what types of things were they saying to you?
I don't care to repeat them in here, please.
Well, attacking you personally, or that you shouldn't be leaving the church, or that those kinds of things, or
Right.
that you were going to, something was going to happen to you if you left, or
Right. When you first join, you have a history record, okay, of everything you've ever done. All right, every place you've ever been, and they pull that out and look at it and go over it and start telling you how bad you are, how when you go out into that world you're going to die. Okay, you're not going to make it. There's no way. All those people out there are suppressive. We're the only sane ones around.
and they specifically told you that? when
Oh
you were
yeah,
getting ready to
over and over again.
Did they, at the time they pulled this information out from this initial document that you filled out, did you before this time have any realization or indication that that was going to be used in any way against
No, I was told that would be put in a file and never brought out.
you? Were.
Yes, I was.
And they specifically took that form out and was reading right from that at the time they were
Yes,
trying to
they
convince
did.
you not to leave. Do you know the name of the person who you were talking to then?
One's name is Doug Steele. Okay. The other one is Deanne Steiger. I don't remember the other one's name.
So
Yes, there were three present.
after they were convinced and going over all of these things that were going to happen to you, and they were convinced that you weren't going to change your mind, what happened then?
They sped up the process a little bit, took me over, and I got this piece of paper that says I owe a lot of money.
That's when you got that, yes.
Well, that's when I got a little angry at them.
Have they been in contact with you since you left?
No, they have not.
They have not. You haven't received any information or...
Well, something I found out about 2 weeks ago is that they have been sending mail with my name on it, except they've been sending it to my mother at the manor. They haven't been sending it to my home address. I just found this out a couple weeks ago.
Oh, really?
Yes. So I took the mail, sent it back to them, rejected it.
I'm sure this is a difficult question, and certainly you don't have to answer it if you don't want. It's kind of personal, but since your mother knew that you left the church, have you lost relationships with her to this point? Or I know you had indicated you felt you would after today, but have you been in communication with your mother since you left the church?
Barely. It's ever since I left the church, she just doesn't have any desire to talk to me or see me or anything. I call her up on the phone once in a while, and we just don't get along on the phone. It's what to expect.
During the time that you were in the church, you would have been 17. Would that have put you as a junior or a senior in high school?
A senior.
A senior? Mm-hmm. During that time, did you go to school at any time?
No, I did not. Well, I took the California High School Proficiency Examination before I even went into Scientology.
Oh, you did? I see.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Have you heard of policies while you were in Scientology? I'm sure you have since you got out, but while you were in Scientology, disassociate or the fair game policy?
Yes, I've heard of the fair game policy.
Had you heard of it before you got out of the church?
Yes.
And what did that mean to you? What was the fair game policy?
Well, that meant that anybody who committed what they considered a suppressive act toward the Church of Scientology, that they were just fair game to anybody. You know, like a hunted deer or something.
Do you have any first-hand knowledge of that being practiced against any individual?
No, I do not. One thing I'd like to say is that they pound into your head over and over again that if you get any of the material for their advanced enlightenment courses, okay, and read it before you've been properly prepared for it, that you will contract pneumonia, at least pneumonia, and you will die.
Did you get pneumonia?
What's that?
Did you get pneumonia?
We didn't get belief.
Not yet.
That's belief, all right. Can't get into belief. Shoemaker.
Could you go in just a little bit, there was some reference made to the outline which we had about you having some experience in hotel management and so forth before you came over here. Could you explain what that was, just briefly?
Well, it's my grandparents own a hotel.
But you had actually worked in a hotel, is or you knew how a hotel operated before you?
Well, I had been staying with them for a while, and they took vacations and so forth, and I ran them. They taught me how to do it, and I pick up on things fairly quickly.
Well, therefore, you would tend to notice much more in terms of the conditions of the rooms and the hotel, the fire exits and things as an average person.
Oh, yes, I think I'm well qualified to determine that.
Okay. There was a comment, or there was a reference made to vacation packages that were provided for some of the guests. That rather than, did everyone that come here come for counseling only, or were there also vacations run? Or?
Well, some people came here. I remember that some of the public would come in just for vacation purposes, okay? But once they're there, that's it. They'll talk them into taking services and spending more money. So they always ended up getting trained or getting their process, going up the bridge, as they call it.
Going up the bridge.
Going up. Right, going up the bridge.
Did you have any kind of first-hand knowledge in terms of the operations of the Guardian's office, other than those that you had mentioned to us?
No.
What was the purpose of the Guardian's office? What were you told the purpose of the office was?
To protect the Church of Scientology.
Okay. Mayor, I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Calderbank, do you have questions?
Yeah. David, you said you were promised decent living accommodations when you came to California.
Yes, I was.
From California. In a very modest means, were you ever given those accommodations what you would expect from what they told you?
The first day, that was it. The first day, I guess they wanted, once they had me in there, I guess they figured they could do anything they wanted with me. So the first day, they lived up to their promises.
And you said that they wouldn't give you medical care and you would have to pay for it, but did they make any promises as to medical care to get you from California to come to Clearwater?
Yeah. Yes, they told me I had full medical and dental.
Full medical and dental?
Yes.
And when you tried to get that, you were turned down?
Yes, flat refused.
You made $9.60 a week?
Yes.
And you were 16 years old when you first went in?
17.
17? Did you sign a W-2 form? That's the tax form with your Social
don't
Security
believe
number.
so. No. Yeah, I know what it looks like.
Okay, did you know that, were you working regular hours?
At the Church of Scientology?
Right.
What do you consider regular hours? Yeah, I worked regular hours.
You had musters and you had to be certain places certain times working for the church.
Yeah, I was required to be certain places, but I had so much to do and so little time to do it in. Half the time I never made it.
Did you ever have set-aside breaks?
Yeah, I was supposed to have lunch break, breakfast break, dinner break.
Did you ever get those?
Once in a while I'd take them, but I'd have to take them. That's how much work I had.
Did the children under 16 in the cadet org follow just about the same basic routine of labor and working conditions?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. The city inspectors that went up there, you said that they had moved furniture around and they were directed to areas that had been cleaned up and they had advanced knowledge. Is that correct?
Okay, I didn't see the city inspectors come in, but I do remember helping them haul things away and hide them, okay, because the city inspectors were coming. And there was a lot of stuff to do and not very many people to do it. And there you have it, extremely hard work.
Just for the public health and safety, would you consider them one inspection a year, or how often would a government agency have to inspect to be able to ensure that it was in the cleaned up condition all the time?
Well, to put it
If you were in a motel atmosphere prior.
To put it mildly, if I was an inspector and walked in there, I'd have condemned it.
And you said that floors 7 and 8 were an inferno. You said if a fire had started, they would have turned into an inferno. Why is that?
Yeah, as an example, if it would have started on floor 7, because of the amount of boxes and papers stacked in the rooms, and all the furniture is wooden, and it's very old and very dry. Okay, and there is no sprinkler system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the fire alarm system, as I said, you have to go all the way downstairs to reception. Okay, and that's just to set off the alarm, not including the time it takes the fire department to get there and to get up to those floors.
Did you ever see children in poor health conditions?
No, I did not.
Did they ever physically restrain you or prevent you from going outside when you wanted to?
Yes.
And that was when they punched you?
Yeah. I'm not blameless for that. I turned around and punched them back and got out. But it really shocked me. Okay, I said, look, I'm leaving. I've had it. And I'd walk out and turn around. All of a sudden, wham! I got it right in the face.
About what time was that? When was? Do you know who punched you in the face? Who blocked you from leaving physically?
Richard Nordstrom.
Richard Nordstrom. You made it clear to him that you wanted to leave.
Yes, I made it very clear to him that I wanted a day off.
And he physically stopped you?
He physically tried. He chased me. I ran. After I hit him, I ran. And I dove out the window on the 4th floor onto the 3rd floor roof and jumped off that down to the parking level. I ran down the parking ramps and down the street.
If you had not done that, do you feel that you would have stayed there?
No, I didn't.
Okay. You were talking about the food that you had to eat, the leftovers. Was sickness or food poisoning common there, to your knowledge? Did many staffers get sick with the food quality?
Well, almost all of the staffers look like they have health problems, okay? None specifically that I know of because they're told not to talk about it, okay? I was told not to talk about it. I would get sick in my stomach once a day.
And this was a result of eating the food?
Yeah, and the amount of work, lack of sleep, lack of cleanliness.
Well, my last question is science and technology. You mention that frequently. You only mention services, scientifically proven facts, and guarantees, legal documents, waivers, signatures. Is that all you heard? Is that what you thought of? How was it represented to you?
Okay, Scientology, the only thing that was represented to me that had anything to do with religion was they're marrying people. Okay, and that's it. And how they can marry people is beyond me. The people in that church get married for one reason and one reason only, for love and affection, because they can't get it. All right, they pound you and they make you work so hard and they chew you up and spit you out again so many times. Your desire for somebody to love you and have a little affection for somebody is so great that people just get married, because that's the way you have to do it in the Church of Scientology. So there are a lot of marriages. My sister got married in this York. She's 17 years old and she's pregnant.
Would you, in summation, if you knew then what you knew now, would you have joined Scientology? Would you have spent money and given them work and, the months of your life to come to Clearwater?
No.
Do you think you were misrepresented as to what you'd find here?
Yes, very much so.
No further questions.
Mr. Burfield.
Trey, I think you've covered most of the issues, living accommodations, the medical care, physical abuse, and the city inspectors. And the problem that I've had before is the truth of those witnesses that have come in. But you said that you never really, if I understand your testimony, that you never really accepted Scientology from almost the second day. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That being the case, and you stayed on for a relatively short time, what are you doing here today? What do you have to benefit from coming here?
A lot. Okay, that feeling that's inside of me to do some good for a lot of people. I know what happened to my family because of Scientology, and I'm sure there are millions of families with similar or worse problems because of this organization. Right. It breaks my heart. It really breaks my heart to know that people out there have to go through what I'm having to go through with my family.
What, along that line, I take it that you do not personally fear for your own future, but what about your family that remains in Scientology?
I am almost completely lost on what to do. I believe this is the right thing. This is a good start. That's why I'm here.
Well, do you think there'll be retaliation against them?
Well, very possibly. That would be just a guess, though. I don't know how accurate it would be, but I would say yes.
Mr. Calderbank hit on the point about some of the things going on in the city, and the question I'd ask, if you could leave one parting statement with the people of the city of Clearwater, what would that be?
Well, first of all, I would tell the city of Clearwater that I am extremely proud of them in that there are almost no local people involved in that group. They have had the common sense and just to know that it's a bad place and a bad scene and not to get involved in it. All right? And they work together on it. And I just think it's fantastic. And if anybody can do anything, you guys can. The one thing that I would watch out for is that since this testimony has been brought up, it's going to be interesting to see what kind of attraction that gives to the people, because I know myself being a teenager and when I was in high school and so forth, we'd all love to go down to like haunted houses and stuff, okay, and see what they're all about. Well, that may happen here. They might want to go find out and see if all this bad stuff is for real, and they could get trapped. And I would be aware of that.
I don't know if there's...
Ms. Garvey, do you have any questions?
Mr. Ray, I have a number of questions, but first of all, I want to sympathize with you for the chance you're taking, the family loss that you already expect is going to happen. And I appreciate the fact that you're willing to do that, even though you know you're going to break. And I guess I pray that you'll get support from everybody else, for so many other people, that you'll have something to replace that support, because I think it's going to be important for you. To go back over some of the things that you talked about. For instance, when you talked about the inspection by the city, how far in advance did they know that the city was going to be there inspecting? Because you're talking about moving heavy objects and hiding things. That takes more than 2 hours.
Oh, 4 days.
4 days. Huh. Okay. You talked about Mr. Nordstrom and how you ran from him after the physical fight and jumped out to the 3rd floor and ran. You returned?
Yes, I did.
Why did you return?
Well, again, it's that part of me that says, okay, David, you want to do some good for some people, so this appears to be a good way to do it, so you're going to have to do it their way.
So you must have gotten an awful lot of plus to get you to be so firmly committed in such a short time, in spite of the behavior towards you, the way they've treated you. You still have this sense of commitment. They are going to accomplish something that you can help with.
Right. What attracted me originally was that I was a very isolated person, okay, when I lived in San Diego. I didn't have a whole lot of friends. All right. I wasn't real happy with myself and the things that I was doing. All right. Well, my mother, who was in Scientology, one day took me down to meet what they call an FSM, a field staff member in San Diego. His name is Ray Barton. He's a Class 8 auditor. Okay, the highest you can go is Class 12. Well, he's a Class 8. And I met him, and she had told him a little bit about my background. Well, all he did was make me feel like I was on top of the world and give me all the friendship that I had ever wanted. Okay,
Big brother.
Right.
Someone that could really relate to.
Right. And he would put me up for everything that I did. He would find the good points in it. All right, put me up. And that's what attracted me to it. I said, well, anything like this has got to be good.
Okay.
I was wrong.
When you first heard about this and heard about auditing, I realized that you never took an auditing session?
No, I did not.
Okay. But when you heard about auditing, were you ever told that what you said would be confidential?
Oh, yes. Yeah, many, many times.
Were you told that it was a scientific technique, that auditing is scientifically based and not religious, or it's scientifically based, or not?
I was told that all of the written technology, okay, that includes the what's in the books, okay, and what they do with you in an auditing session was researched, scientifically researched, and scientifically proven to work.
Okay, very good, thank you. You talked about your job, and I keep forgetting these initials, RPF. which was the garbage collections in the restaurants,
Yes.
right? And the subsequent stamping down like they do the grapes. Can you describe the conditions in the restaurant? Were the restaurant kitchens rather clean? That they would pass any kind of health standards as far as you were concerned, or were you not allowed it that far in?
I saw just about everything, because also in the RPF, one of the things we had to do was get in there and scrub the toilets. Now, I don't appreciate scrubbing a toilet without having rubber gloves or something. Okay? And no, they were not clean. Okay? We did that like once a day, but it needs to be done a lot more often than that. Like I said, if I was any kind of an inspector that went in there, I'd have condemned the building and closed it down.
Specifically in the restaurant kitchens, would you say, were you able to, were you allowed in there, and could you say whether or not they were basically sanitary, clean? They're cooking food there for the public, is that?
No, they were not sanitary. One of the guys I bunked with, his name is Larry Black, he was the chief cook. And he was always coming in complaining how they didn't clean up everything for him in the morning, so he's not going to clean it up for them in the evening. So they'll get served breakfast through dirty dishes.
Okay. You did make comment that you really weren't aware of any children's negative conditions. Are you aware of a location of a school? Where would children go to school in this area?
The Scientology, I don't know about this area, but the Scientology organization has a chain of schools. They're called Apple schools.
Apple?
Apple.
Apple school.
Yes.
Is that from the Beatles?
Would there be any school facility within the Clearwater area that you know of?
Not that I know of. Not in Clearwater area, no.
So therefore, obviously, well, that's not you know, but if there is no place for a school, they can't have a school. Do you have any knowledge of solicitation practices? You know, how do they get you and me to join? Is it?
Well, they have. When I was in San Diego, the first day I was on staff, they took me down to downtown where they have a little office. It says Dianetics, the Modern Science of Mental Health, okay, which is the book, Dianetics. And they have big posters that they have out on the front sidewalk on one of the downtown streets. And they would stand out there and just start walking with these people as they were walking down the streets, just talking to them. And most people weren't interested, but they'd bring a few people in and they'd get them started.
How did they bring, do you have any idea of how they brought those in that were brought in? What did they say to convince someone? If you have no idea, don't go on, but just wondering if you did. You obviously use a solicitation method with your phone calling.
Right.
What did you do to sell those people that you got?
All I did was call up all my friends and say, hey, this is great. This will help you out a lot. And they trusted me. They believed me.
You didn't give any specific promises that
didn't have to.
They took your word for it.
They took my word for it.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Okay.
A few quick ones, and then we'll go to the next witness. For clarification, public people paying people?
Yeah?
The public are the paying people?
Yes.
When they would arrive there, where would they eat? Were they charged? And would they get... was the food included in their room?
The food was not included in their room. There are two restaurants in the Fort Harrison. One is called the Hourglass, which is a nice dinner restaurant. They have entertainment. And there's another one called the Lemon Tree, and it's a cafeteria-style restaurant. And they would eat in either one. They would have a menu with the prices listed, and above it would be listed as donations. Okay?
Donations.
Yeah, but if you weren't willing to pay that price they were asking for it, you weren't going to get any food, period.
Did they charge the going price like a steak may be $8.95 in the restaurant? Or
Actually, their prices are a little bit more expensive.
Even with that little overhead?
Yeah, with that overhead, right. What will they charge for these rooms, these paying people? Did you say $100 a day?
No, that's not just for the room. That includes everything. that a public person would pay for there. All right, the rooms would run anywhere from 40 a day up to 100 a day.
But would you get a private room for that?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
They did have rooms that were shared by public people. They would have a shared room.
Like husband, wife, or a regular double room?
Well, like two men, you know, or two women who would share a room. They probably don't even know each other, but they'd share a room.
All right, how many public guests or paying guests did you have there on an average week or day?
Around 300 on the average all the time.
All right. You mentioned earlier about a young person named Nancy Meter.
Nadine.
Nadine Meter. Explain how she was held there, or kept there, this 13-year-old child.
Well, by what was said to her from people in the Sea Org, okay, she kept herself there. That's what really...
That sounds odd.
No,
Yeah,
that's
but...
what he's saying, psychologically.
Yeah, they get you psychologically, okay, so that everything you do, you're being held by yourself. You're holding yourself there, okay? They don't have to do anything. All they got to do is sit there and implant things into your head, okay? And you'll do it on your own.
Well, I can see how parents would put someone there, but I don't know how parents could allow them to stay there if they wanted them back. That, to me, is hard to figure out.
Well, I can't justify that.
You mentioned everything was absolute insanity. What do you mean by absolute insanity?
The people walk around there like robots. They're robots that are programmed. I mean, they might as well be a machine, not human. They are not individuals, okay? Everybody is the same. They study the same material, okay? They speak in the same terminology. They use the same slang words. They're the same this, same that. Everything is the same, okay? There's no room for being individual, and they don't build you. They build you up at first to get you in, but once you're in, they do exactly the opposite, and they fire on you, okay, to lower your defenses. Once you have your defenses lowered, you're gone. They've got you.
One more thing. You've mentioned these deplorable conditions, and we could, of course, send inspectors over there tomorrow, and I would assume they'd be cleaned up or moved around, and then I'm not sure what that would prove, and that also may be harassment, too. But I wonder about people living in a garage. I don't know how you can clean up a garage in 24 hours. I'm just suggesting that out loud. And was it suggested to you that you join the Army and go to the Special Forces to be better able to infiltrate U.S. intelligence agencies?
It wasn't worded like that. When I was first, I didn't want to bring this up, okay, but I will bring it up now since you already did. When I was first recruited into the Sea Org, I said, well, what kind of things, do you do? I mean, what are you doing to get Scientology into this area, into this area? And they said, well, if you were interested in putting Scientology into the government, I mean, we'll maybe put you in the Army through the Special Forces and get you into the CIA or something to put Scientology in there. It was way up in the air, okay? It wasn't a direct, yes, you're going to do that, okay? It was just a suggestion. If I would have reached for it and grabbed it, okay, then I would have something. But otherwise, I think that piece of information is worthless.
Thank you. All right. That's it, then, for this witness, unless there's something that you commissioners must ask at this particular time. If there isn't, I want to thank you very much for coming to see us today, David, and good luck to you. And you've been a very cooperative, you're a very bright young man. We wish you well.
Well, thank you very much.
We hope you get your family back together.
Yeah, I hope so, too.
Thank you.